Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alex King and Daniel Mangena, and this is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And at the time we're recording this, we're kind of creeping up on the Christmas holiday, so that's on a lot of people's minds. And right here in the Northeast, I think, Alex, you probably had a taste of it too. We got a whole bunch of white stuff on the ground. So Louise is jumping up and down saying, "It's a white Christmas, it's a white Christmas."
Mine will be gone by the end of this podcast.
Oh, is that right? You didn't get all that much. Okay. Yeah, we got about a foot of it. So ours is probably going to be around. But yeah. But, you know, that's okay. Hey, it's getting excited by what really is going on in your life and finding the ways to be excited about it. And let me tell you, nobody's better at that than Louise. I mean, really, literally, her goal for later on this evening after dinner is for her and me to go outside and start skipping down the walk. That's how excited she gets about snow. I'm just saying.
I don't suggest that.
Well, it has been plowed, if that helps.
Okay, all right. Still, it's slippery out there. You guys are up there in age. I don't want any broken hips. I don't like it.
I won't tell her that.
Okay.
But anyway, what I will tell you though,
I'm concerned for your safety. Please stay inside.
Yeah, please do.
I don't think it'll work, but I'll try.
All right, as long as you try.
I'm just saying. If nothing else, she's going to want to go out and enjoy the sights or something like that because she loves.
Well, I almost built a snowman today, but it was too wet.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Ours is a little bit more fluffy than that.
No,
but,
ours was fluffy last night, and then now it's sopping wet.
Okay. But I did want to tell you about something else that happened. We got an email about last week's show, and I wanted to share it with you. It's from Deborah, who's a regular listener. And she says, another hilarious show. Thank you. Though I have a quibble with Dan. He says, I think he disproved his own theory because Stefan's affirmations did in fact work as he manifested Dan's very generous gift. So,
who's this?
Stefan was the one who you gave the gift of your course to because he was having trouble manifesting what he wanted to manifest.
Oh, no, but then he completely sabotaged himself and made it completely impossible for me to give it to him.
That's true. That's the part that she doesn't know the story about because he.
Wait, I don't know the story. What happened?
It got to the point where it's like a lot of time out of my days being taken up trying to force a gift upon you. I just asked for some basic stuff. It wasn't the course; it was the book. I offered him a paperback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. Yes.
And I was like, yeah, just send me your address, and I'll get Amy to post it out. And it turned into this whole thing about how he can't buy it online and all of the other stuff, and he doesn't want to impose. I was like, bro, I'm just trying to give you a book.
Yeah, right.
I'm just trying to give you.
You can't give a gift that won't be taken. There's no way
even if I was buying it at full price, it's $20 out of my life.
Yeah.
I'm all right to ship it. I said, I didn't ask, where are you? Can you contribute to the postage?
Right.
I just said, shoot your address, we'll post you the book. And it turned into a whole thing, which ended with me saying, okay, I understand, and leaving it there.
And that was really the right thing to do. I mean,
I'm not forcing myself on anyone.
He felt more comfortable doing it the way he was. He was quite happy. He was happy to be recognized. He was happy to have his question addressed. So really, he got what he wanted out of it. But Deborah didn't know all that. So we'll give Deborah a little bit of grace on that.
Deborah can have plenty of grace because all the grace in the universe is available to her here in the
That's true. That's true. But continuing with her note, she says, as for the describe yourself in 3 words lazy joke, oh my God, I will be inflicting that on everyone I meet today. Though given the current circumstances, that won't be too many. And she also said she also said she loved Alyx's t-shirt and that Otto the dog definitely approved of it. So there you go.
Fabulous.
Oh man, which one was that?
Well, you got to keep track of your own shirts. I can't do that for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I go to Five Below once a month, and all I do is buy t-shirts. Like you don't understand.
All I do is buy.
I have two separate drawers full of t-shirts alone.
Wow. And I've got a new t-shirt design that we're adding to the store.
Ooh, okay. All right.
I'll send you guys the deets on it.
Are we going to get a reveal here on the show?
No, because I can't do it on here. Basically.
Technology is stumping you right now.
Wait, hang on. Wait a minute. No.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
No, this is turning into a really distractive, completely
unnecessary. We'll just skip that. I had resolved before the show. I wasn't going to put you on the spot. I put you on the spot twice so far. So I really
no. It works. It works. Hang on. It works. Can I share? Okay. Can I share screen?
Yeah.
No, you've disabled.
I can I probably can just kind of.
There's the little up arrow. The little up arrow next to share screen, and then advanced. And then it will give permissions for.
Yeah, I'm trying to get that.
I don't have a share my screen option.
There, try it now.
Does that work? Yeah. And I can share this one. Have a look.
Don't be a BA snail. Oh, and I love the eyes.
Do you know what BA stands for?
Not a clue.
Well, it's too early in the day and before the watershed, so I'll leave that to the imagination of the listeners.
Okay.
I think we'll just leave that one. That sounds good. Before I get myself in trouble yet again.
But that's for the reality trend surface in the back. They'll get it.
Okay.
They'll get it.
I'm glad somebody's going to get it. And even if it's not me, that's okay. I can live with that.
Yeah, it went totally over my head, but that's okay.
Because in his book, Tufti, the priestess, Vadim basically keeps describing people that don't create their own reality as snails.
Mm-hmm.
So the character in the book, Tufti the princess, is like, oh, you sniveling snail, you hide in your snail house and blah, blah, blah. So basically, someone that doesn't create their reality is a snail. So I then added to the International Reality Transurfing Lexicon, BA snail, BA being the profane versions of those little letters there. And here we okay. And so now it makes sense.
I'm really glad I didn't try to guess on that one.
No, you wouldn't have been able to guess. You wouldn't have been able to
I would have gotten into so much trouble in so many different ways.
So we got those designed. So they're going to be going out to the world. Well, now that Kamini's done everything because she's a star, and we'll get those going out to the world today.
Beautiful.
Nice.
All right. Very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a couple of little topics to bring up today. And one of them, I have to admit, it's a little selfish because I think you guys know, and some of our listeners now know that I'm thinking about creating a second sort of a little mini career as a public speaker. And so I'm working on my talk, my base talk that I'm going to be giving over and over and over again. And there are a couple of elements of that talk that I'm hoping you guys can help me with. First and foremost is one that I know you guys can help me with because we've talked before about how both of you are on the autism spectrum. And I want to kind of bring that out a little bit in the talk, just for like one line worth. But I was hoping you guys could kind of fill in some gaps for me a little bit because I'm bringing it in the context of the ARAS, or the Ascending Reticular Activating System. It's the part of the brain that does the filtering. And one of the things I understand about the autism spectrum is that when you have some degree of autism, your filtering is in some way reduced compared to the quote normal person. And so I thought you guys could just give me some ideas. What's that like? I mean, I know it's hard to compare because you know what your experience is and that's pretty much it, but
right.
What's it like when you're overwhelmed by data? What does that feel like to you guys?
I have meltdowns. But the type of data, down. But the type of thing that overwhelms me, like, so for example, having a completely new human, absolutely fine. I've got my structures in place. I've got my systems. I've got appropriate support ready, have some experience. Cool. A plane being delayed, or like a train and needing to be somewhere on time, that I'll have a complete and utter freak out. Or going to the store and something that I've got to have on my list isn't there that used to be there. I remember the first time that these little sausages I like, and they didn't have them in the freezer at Costco. And the first day that I went there and they weren't there, I went to every freezer looking for it. Where are they? Nearly had a complete freak out in the middle of Costco.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, change does not bode well with me anyway.
No change.
So you count on the pattern then. The pattern helps you maintain stability.
Structure and rules and things that should be in place at all times.
How does it manifest for you, Alyx? I mean, what do you experience when you're feeling some data overload?
I have meltdowns and I shut down completely. I go nonverbal on sometimes. Sometimes I can handle it. Sometimes, most of the time, not, and I'll shut down for the entire day.
Is it like certain triggers, or is it just random, or how does it work?
For me, the ones that bother me the most is sound. I get overwhelmed with too many sounds or too much sound.
Okay.
Like if too many people are talking in the same room.
Oh yeah.
I can't handle it. Or like if something's too loud, it's overwhelming. Or loud sudden sounds. Those are awful.
Well, then thank you for doing a podcast with me, because that's all sound. I appreciate that. I mean, seriously.
But if there was like 15 people on here, I couldn't do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
There's no way now.
But I've seen you do it with a half dozen of us, because we did it on the Stream of David's.
Me?
Yeah.
That's because I prepped in advance and I only focus on a couple of you at a time.
Yeah.
I actually pretend the rest of you don't exist.
Advance, that helps.
And pretend the rest of them don't exist. So only the ones that were on at a time, that's it. And I also have my stimming, tapping of my leg. Helps a lot.
I rub my knees.
Yes. So Olga gets sometimes really frustrated. You might even see that my mic wobbles sometimes. It's because I'm stimming.
Okay. All right. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting.
We're interesting folks.
Well, you are. Well, you are interesting anyway. I mean, not least of which because of your humor, and I love that part, and because of your knowledge, and I love that part. But this is interesting. You're giving me input that I would not normally have had. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Second thing I wanted to ask about was your take on, and this is probably the broader topic for the day. When people talk about law of attraction and conscious creation and all of that kind of thing, trying to manifest stuff, most people think about it kind of in a vacuum. And we've talked about this in a lot of different ways, but sort of like, I'm going to put the thought out there and it'll just appear, and I don't have to really do anything. I can sit on my couch. And I think we all pretty much agree, it's important to take action in there and to tie the action into what you're feeling about it and how you're thinking about it, and make everything congruent. I guess what I was looking from you guys is just some more insights about how you individually, particularly, go about doing exactly that. Like, you want something to happen in your life. How do you go about deciding what action steps to take with it? Do you just wait to see what you're inspired by, or do you pre-plan it? Because I mean, you just described how you'll often pre-plan stuff so that your autism isn't kind of kicked into gear unnecessarily. So I'm curious, what do you guys do? How do you handle stuff if you're trying to manifest something into your life?
I speak it out loud and then I let it go, and then it just happens. I don't have.
So you're not worried about the action step?
Not so much, because I know myself, and I know I'm going to do something that's going to have to do with it later on. Not so much in thought at that time.
Okay, so you don't give any advanced thought to what the action is going to be. You just assume it's going to come, and you'll know what it is when it's there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's legitimate. That's a good way to do it.
It's all legitimate.
What do you do, Dan? I mean, what's your approach?
Well, I tend not to obsess over what steps to take. For me, the surrender piece comes in and allowing what those steps are to be revealed as I go along. So I follow the breadcrumbs. I call it following the breadcrumbs. So I connect with my heart, connect with what I really want, set the intention from there, connect with what it's going to feel like, mentally rehearse the end result, and then follow the breadcrumbs that show up about the steps to take. And that's the surrender piece for me.
Do you ever find yourself not doing a Walt, not noticing the breadcrumbs, not noticing when stuff shows up?
And not noticing the breadcrumbs, freaking out and thinking that I have to do something, freaking out that the thing I did was the wrong thing and that I've done the wrong thing and everything's going to go to poop. All the human things.
Mm-hmm. Overanalyzing.
Oh yeah, all the human things.
Oh yeah. Overanalyzing, my favorite piece.
Mm-hmm.
I do that all the time. That's the habit I'm trying to unlearn. So yeah. Okay. Then let me ask you about how do I want to tie this in? because I'm also thinking in terms of how my talk is kind of structuring and how it's coming together, because I'm trying to address a few issues with people up front to kind of show them why it is that my talk is important to them individually, and then showing them what I'm suggesting for them to do. Basically, I'm trying to, my initial talk is going to be targeted to college students. That's who I'm trying to reach out to for my audience, particularly students who are dealing with pressure and stress, because from everything that I've been reading, it's become a pretty major issue in colleges across the country. Before COVID, just before COVID came along. I mean, I'm yet to see what the actual numbers are with COVID included in them, but without COVID, the numbers are staggering.
I would start at age 16 and work your way up, because it actually starts junior year.
It probably does, yes. I'm also trying not to overload myself with all of the bad news, because there's so much of it.
Asking you shall receive.
Oh boy, yes.
Even if you don't really want to receive it.
Creating.
Right.
That's right, yes.
Exactly.
When you do research like this, you just, I'll tell you one that I ran into today that just kind of, it kind of blew my mind. Because, I mean, people who do social science type research usually are pretty devoted to, digging up all the little details and so forth. And then, they practically follow through on them ad nauseum. Well, in this case, I found that the PhDs are actually avoiding research based on their findings in at least one case. And in this particular case, it's something called I think it's the National Mental Health Assessment, which is done with colleges every year. And in 2019 was the last year that they would ask questions like, have you felt overwhelming sadness? Have you felt, very depressed? Have you felt so depressed that you couldn't get out of bed? They would break it down to a lot of different questions like that.
Oh,
and they were getting,
PQ9?
What's that?
PQ9?
I don't know.
It's a form that most mental health people will help you fill out, and it goes up with the last 14 days, I believe, on how you've been feeling in certain areas.
It does include that. Yeah, it may be that same form. I know that in this particular case, they were asking it specifically of college age students, but it could be a form they use in a lot of different contexts. I don't really know. But what disturbed me is that they were getting really, really high numbers, like 60, 70, 80% of the students saying that they felt deeply depressed during the previous year, and 40% of them within the last 2 weeks, and stuff like that. Really, really high numbers. And then for 2020, they eliminated all the questions. All they were interested in were people who were getting treatment for various kinds of mental conditions and illnesses. And they were eliminating all the people who said, well, yeah, I've experienced that stuff, but I didn't actually go to get treatment for it. And that I found that to be kind of alarming. Like, your research showed you there's this big, big problem, and now you're going to ignore it by just not even asking questions about it anymore. Like, I thought that's what you guys did for a living.
Right.
I don't get this. What's going on here? So that's what I mean when I say it's kind of, well, I don't want to say alarming, but very eye-opening.
Yeah.
To see that they're doing this stuff. Anyway, it was also telling me that my topic is right on topic, because apparently this is a very, very big problem. So kind of getting back to what I was asking you guys about earlier, I wanted to ask you some stuff that perhaps is more specific to what you remember about your experience at that age, and what your strategies were for dealing with what you went through at that age, and what you might say to somebody who's going through that stuff today. Like, Alyx, I know you that was kind of, well, you said junior year in high school, and that kind of, for you and your particular life history, that's where things started to kick off for you, where you had all kinds of issues. Isn't that about where it was?
No, it was right about the age you're looking at, when I was in my 20s.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay. All right. So kind of looking back at what you went through, if you were there again, like kind of talking to your own self back then, what would you tell yourself in terms of dealing with all that stuff that you were dealing with?
I would tell myself something difficult, which is listen to the doctors, but not every doctor.
Discernment.
Yeah. Because I had a lot of doctors, and some of them were right, and some of them were completely way off and just here for the paycheck. But
how do you tell the difference?
You don't. You have to go through it. Yeah, you just have to go through it. You gotta trust your gut first of all. You gotta trust that some things that they're saying might not always be true because you don't fit in a certain type of box that they're trying to fit you in.
Is the act of trusting your gut itself an issue? In other words, one of my perceptions is that you tend to cut yourself off from your gut. You tend to dissociate from those feelings because they're so painful.
It also, it's trying in those times because you don't know what to look at or what to trust. So you don't even know if you can trust yourself, especially if doctors are telling you need to do this and you need to be on this medication because you're not thinking right. So you don't know to trust your gut, but you really should.
Okay.
It's a confusing time.
If you were that 20-odd-year-old self getting that result, that information, how would you process that? Would you accept it?
Me, I would. Because it would be me talking to myself. So I would.
Well, like, you are. Yeah, that's what I asked.
Yeah. She's already been there. She's already been through it. But at the same time, it's like you're at that age where like your parents are telling you the same thing because they've already been through it, but you don't want to listen to them because you're your own person. But I think it'd be different if I was actually physically talking to myself, and hey, ignore that guy there, go with that person there. And yes, this is true. No, that's not true. But yeah, I totally think I'd listen to myself.
Why would that be different if you were actually able to sit there talking to yourself?
Because it's myself.
Because you trust yourself.
I've already experienced it. I've already been through it. So I know how I'm telling myself how it's going to work out.
Okay.
So how do I skip these steps and get there faster? Or do I need to go through this pain to figure it out?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's fair. How about you, Daniel? If you were talking to yourself when you went through that age, that time period, and I don't know what kinds of pressures or stresses or whatever you went through at that time, but I think we all kind of experienced them one way or another. What would you say to yourself if you could have that conversation?
Around what age again? Because I had to
college age, roughly.
I didn't really do college though. I did like a year of college and went off to go and make a couple of £1 million instead.
I didn't do college either.
Okay. Well, so did you go through, let's put it this way. Did you go through an experience of some kind that is similar to the college experience where there is a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, usually that you're putting on yourself and you're trying to handle that?
I started an international corporation at the age of 19. So that's what I was doing at that
time. Oh, no pressure.
No pressure.
I did a year of uni. Then I went off to go and start a business instead with some other guys. So I was busy planning on taking over the world. And then I lost everything at the age of 20 and then went off and was focused on rebuilding it again. So I was kind of preoccupied. I missed this part of life. I missed it. I didn't drink alcohol. I wasn't dating girls because I was still heavily autistic. Wasn't dating boys either, just in case that went into somebody's mind.
Don't want to leave anybody out.
Just wasn't dating. I was just, kind of obsessed. That's all. I was obsessed with reading, studying, learning more about esoterics and mysticism and making money. That was what my reality was at the time. I had quite an atypical college years life for me.
But you made an interesting choice, though. You said that you went to university for a year and then you left. Why did you leave?
Because I got into college, Keble College, Oxford University.
Oh!
I was the year of the grade scandal when a lot of people's papers got downgraded. So I lost my place at Oxford.
Wow.
So I actually refused to go to uni and told my parents, I'm not going to uni. I'm going to retake my exams. I didn't understand how I've never had a C on an exam in my life. And they were telling me I got D's, E's and U's, which isn't what I ever get. So I said, no, I'm going to retake my exam, my A levels and reapply with my results, reapply with the results the next year and try to get back into my place in Oxford. Mum and Dad refused and said I had to go to university. So I went to university under protest.
Oh my.
So when I went, the university I ended up at was the only red brick uni that was left that still had economics combined degrees. So Red Brick Uni is basically a real university. This is the snob in me coming out. In the UK, you've got real universities, and then you've got colleges that got upgraded to universities. So they're not actual universities. So in the UK, if you hear someone talking about a Red Brick University, it was always a university, and normally they've got some age to them. So there was only one left that had places after clearing, which is when all the people that got their places that was left. So I ended up this place, absolutely hated it. Didn't even go to I didn't go to lectures. I think I failed half my exams, not even showing up for. I think one I didn't even show up for. I said, screw this, I'm going to go do something else instead. So I took a gap year that's been going off for the last 16 years, 17 years.
It's a big gap.
I took a 17 year long gap year. And yeah, that's what happened.
Were you feeling pressure by your parents?
No, I was feeling Africaned by my parents. There was no pressure. It was just what it was. It's like, I find it hilarious when kids are like, yeah, I hate like negotiating. Like when Olga negotiates with Ariella, I'm like, you're allowed to do that? Like, I didn't know. She's still alive? Like, what's happening here? It's like, you said
so apparently the word pressure isn't really the appropriate word, is what we're saying.
It's just life. It's life.
Yeah, it is what it is, man.
It's life. It's like, no, you're going to go, okay, mom, okay, dad. Okay, I guess that's what's happening. I guess there was no programming in my system that said that there was a response other than yes, ma'am, yes, dad. Like everything else is just automatic death sentence. Do you want to live? Yes. Then you just agree. Okay, this is what happened. Do you want to go to university now, or do you want to just die? Like, what do you want? What works for you? Life is good, so I guess I'll see you in university. So,
but that does raise an interesting question, because I mean, like you just described, it was a life or death option that were given to you, and you went with the life option, and then once you had taken the life option, you basically kind of surreptitiously did the death option by leaving the university.
Well, I lied and said I was taking the gap year. I mean, basically, I lied. My mum, I'm 37 years old now. That happened when I was 19. My mum still thinks I'm going to finish my degree and still asks me, so son, when are you finishing your degree?
Well, she's watching. She knows now.
Mum, I'm a millionaire. Why do I need to go to? I don't understand. I don't get it.
The accolades, man. The accolades.
I don't get it. Like, there are enough degrees in the family, changing the world here. Okay, that's great. Let me know what major you choose. Okay,
right.
So, do you want to know how ridiculous it is? Even though I know all of this, I still have it on my to-do list to go and finish my degree.
Do you really?
I still have it on my to-do list to finish my degree.
Oh, that doesn't drive you nuts that it's been there all this time? So I'd remove it from the list just so I'd feel better about it.
No, but I did. So I did another year via distance learning with Open University. I did another year of it, well, 2/3 of 1 year. Then I realized I didn't like that combination. And now I know what combination I probably want to finish with. That same institution still allow it, but I've been kind of, a bit busy building an empire, taking over the world, whatnot.
A little busy.
Now I've got, other responsibilities and whatnot. So it's there, it will be done. It's just,
It's not a terribly high priority, is what you're saying.
I can do it in my retirement. I can do it as part of my retirement. Yeah. Although, what I'm kind of angling for is getting one of those honorary degree things.
Oh.
In what field?
Who fudge cares?
Just just to say you have a degree? You just want it?
Just so, Mum, look, I've got one now. Seriously.
No, I believe
as long as my mum and dad are still alive, that will remain on my to-do list. I'll consider its place in my life, so long as my life is still my own. And as long as my parents are alive.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Create your reality, but listen to your mum.
You just blew a gigantic hole in my research, but I love it. I just love it.
It's like, yeah, it's just not really. There's no.
Well, actually, I mean, I'm making a joke about that, but actually it's pretty cool, because what you're really talking about is you didn't let the strictures of your life growing up determine what you're going to do as an adult, which is for a lot of people, that's daring.
Mm.
How'd you do that? Where'd you get the gumption to do that?
I don't know if it's my four tendency as a rebel. So have I spoken about Gretchen Rubin's Four Tendencies on the show before?
It sounds familiar, but it's been a while.
Gretchen Rubin's a New York author and researcher that talks about habits, and she created this formula or this paradigm or whatever called the Four Tendencies. It says basically how we deal with expectation fits us into one of four groups. You're a rebel like me, which resists inner and external expectations. You're a questioner that resists expectations until you understand, connect, and resonate with the why, and then you can become compliant, internally or externally. An obliger will honor external expectations, but not inner expectations, and an upholder honors inner and internal expectations. So to put that in other words, an upholder, if they say they're going to do something, even if nobody's looking, they're going to do it because they've said they're going to do it. In fact, they'll have a compulsion to do it. An obliger needs outside accountability. If they say they're going to do something and nothing's holding them accountable or externally putting that expectation on them, they're not going to do it. A questioner is a rebel until such time as they have a why that they resonate with or an understand, and then they become an upholder. And then rebels like me, just be careful how you deal with us, because we're probably just not going to do it. So even when I'm talking to myself, I have to be really careful when I'm setting intentions and so on and so forth, because unless I construct it the right way, I will resist what I want to do. I will want to do something, but will have loads of resistance, which wastes energy. So I work with myself in that regard. So in relation to the expectations of my family and so on and so forth, there was always going to be an internal thing that, freedom, but the resistance will be there.
Which is fascinating, because I've always maintained, and for me, you're just reinforcing these, I don't know what to call them. I don't want to call them battles, because that sounds like too much of a war going on. These struggles, these conflicts, however you want to frame them, are essentially internal conflicts. I mean, even when we have, even in the more traditional case, the kid who goes to college and feels the pressure and stress, they'll attribute it to, the family or to the professor or to the particular class or the too much homework or the expectations, but it's all still internal.
Yeah.
I mean, we externalize all this stuff, but really it's going on internally, because we're the ones who take it on. And if there's a better example of how that does or doesn't play out, it's what you just described about you being the rebel. You got to decide, because that was the big advantage of being the rebel. You made the decision to heck with what anybody else was going to say. It was up to you, and it was only up to you in your own mind. You may have said something differently to them just so that they could hear something they wanted to hear. But with you, it was always going to be by your terms and nobody else's terms.
Yeah. And that's the way it worked out.
Yeah. And that's big. That's really big. How do you teach that? Is that teachable?
Sorry, it's just there's a learning platform called Teachable. So it sounded like you said, is that one teachable?
Oh, okay.
Dad joke.
What did I say this time?
So it's really interesting. I just read another one of her books, hoping for some help, operative word, for some extra support for not just myself, but other rebels that I work with. Questioners are really easy for me to work with, I find, because they become upholders so long as they understand why and it makes sense to them. So we spend a lot of time making sure that we uncover the why, we really resonate with it, we understand all the aspects of it, and then they're fine. Obligers, just give them some accountability and targets. Upholders, normally with upholders, you just have to make sure they're not committing to too much and burning out. But rebels can be a bit of a ball ache, to be honest, working with rebels. But
which is saying something if you are one. I mean, you know better than anybody else, and you're still saying that.
I mean, I had a coach that I hired a coach to help me with something, and it was just one of the worst mistakes of my life, because they would say, I'm going to hold you accountable on this, and it automatically made it 10 times more difficult for me to do everything. So I paid for support, and it ended up actually just giving me an extra job for a year.
Wow.
Whereas if I had just taken it a day at a time, connected to the freedom and the choice that I'd made to do the thing, it would be fine. So, you know, with me, I keep some structure. So I've got an accountability group that we run, called Beyond Accountability. It's a free thing that we just do to help people like build habits and stuff. And we reset every Sunday. So I basically take it a week at a time and then a day at a time. So every day I re-choose. And so it's not, it's not expectation on myself or from someone else. I get to choose it every day. And I keep it very loose. My to-do list for the day, I've got stuff that's set. I've got certain time I do certain meditation. I watch my mind movie, do my push-ups in the morning, for example, at the moment. But every week I have the opportunity to change that. So even when I come up against, oh my God, I just remind myself, I've only got to do it for a few more days. And then if I don't want to do it anymore, I don't have to. And that normally, that conversation where I re-choose helps me get past even the resistance to keep, and that's what actually helps me build habits for the longer term until such time as it feels good. And then I don't need to force myself to do it. I just do it.
Okay. So with the 4 types that you described, the upholder, questioner, rebel, and
obliger.
And obliger, right. Is it easy to identify oneself? Where does one fit in, or does that require special assistance?
I think that if you're smart about it, you can. She's got a test that she's got, which is free and takes about 10 minutes, that will help you immensely to identify who you are. We find that our clients are able to identify who they are using that test all the time.
Okay. All right.
And then go from there. And like I said, there's a lot of support for some of the others, but I personally have found that for rebels, we have a bit harder of a time, I think.
I would think so.
We have a bit harder of a time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a strategy that you take knowing yourself, or is it different with every person?
I think it's going to be different for every person. The reason why I say that is because part and parcel of being the rebel is you do have this sort of unique energy about you, which, you know, it's a bit pretentious in some respects, but it is supportive to just sort of work with that and go from there. It is really supportive, I find.
Okay. Very interesting.
Part of it's pretentious, part of it's, you know, there's a pretentious aspect to it. Oh, I'm a rebel, you know, I didn't want to do it that way. I'm going to do it my own way. I'm an individual. But, you know, if it's real for you, it's real for you. So roll with it. That's why it's
true. I think this kind of fits into the overall description of know yourself. Mm-hmm. If you know yourself, first of all, it's easier to love yourself. Second of all, it's easier to feed yourself spiritually what you need to feed yourself, as well as physically what you need to feed yourself physically. And when you combine all that together, what you're really doing is building yourself up to be the person you most want to be. So I think that all fits together really nicely. Now, this does bring in one other side topic that I want to kind of tie into and see what you guys have to say about it. I already know what I'm going to say about it in my talk and in my writing, but I'm trying to fill in some gaps, so to speak. So I want to distinguish between true self-love and, well, the way it's generically being described today, narcissism. that fake version of it. So I just want to get what your take is. What do you see the differences between narcissism and true self-love?
That's a tough one.
That's why I asked you. You guys you're the easy ones to ask because you are so good at handling the tough ones. So that's why I'm asking you.
I guess. I mean, I feel like it can be a thin line, but it's all about your perspective. I don't think you need to rely on other people's perspective when you decide what is for you and what is for other people. I think that's the difference.
Okay.
Like Daniel, how much self-love are you taking a bath and drinking a glass of wine for you, or are you doing it for other people? That's, I think, what the difference is.
Okay.
I personally, I think that it's ultimately going to come down to intention. And one of the things I found to be really powerful in releasing the obsession with blaming other people, getting caught up in other people's stuff, is that a narcissist is very rarely going to know that they're a narcissist, and even rarer that they're going to admit they're a narcissist.
Facts.
So rather than even getting caught up in any of that, I follow the golden rule of transurfing, do me, and do my best to not show up as a narcissist. Keep people around me who hold me accountable and away from the narcissism stuff. And if someone else exhibits behavior that I associate with that, I just make the choice about whether I want them in my life or not.
That's good. I like that. I'll give you an idea of the way I've been framing it. I've been thinking about it in terms of, is a narcissist truly somebody who loves himself?
Probably.
We kind of assume that he does. I mean, the standard tale is a story of Narcissus who saw his own reflection in a pool and fell in love with it, and then fell into the pond and drowned, which I think is a rather odd tale. But nevertheless, that's what the tale is. And it occurred to me, did he really love himself? He loved his reflection. Mm-hmm. But I don't really think he loved himself any. And I noticed
did he know any different?
Narcissists.
Did he know any different? Which is where I get.
I'm not sure they did. Yeah.
That's the thing.
And at the end, if he doesn't know any different, you know,
I feel like they're in love with the idea of being in love themselves, as opposed to
that's
actually.
Enough.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's enough.
I mean, when you look at Romeo and Juliet, they believed that their love was real. And does it matter whether it really was or not? They're dead now. It's as real as the result. I mean, I was speaking to a friend of mine recently, and they were, they're working on building a new timeline, and they're like, I'm just waiting for my reality to catch up with my new timeline. And I said, no, you're not. This is your timeline. And the sooner that you accept that this is your timeline, the sooner that you're actually going to be able to get to the timeline that you want to be in. It's as simple as that. We tell ourselves, oh, I'm working on this. I'm creating a new reality. Yeah, you're still in the process of creating your reality, but we're never in flux. We're always somewhere. Mm-hmm. And that place that we are isn't where we want to be. And it's only by accepting that we can actually start to transition into the one that we want.
It's a great little path you drew it onto there. I like that. I'm going to definitely play this part back. I still want to go back to what I was saying earlier, though, because from my perspective, the narcissist really doesn't love himself at all. And the evidence of that is he's constantly looking for approval from everybody else. I mean, somebody who truly loves himself doesn't need to go get that approval. I mean, not that they'll turn it down. If somebody says, oh, you're really cool, they'll say, oh, well, hey, thank you. I appreciate that. But, somebody who's not narcissistic, but who truly has a sense of self-love isn't going to go look for, oh my God, I'm going to separate all the people who love me from all the people who don't love me. If you don't love me, you're against me. But if you love me, you are my favorite person. That's not the way the average person thinks. That's not the way a healthy ego thinks, but it is the way a narcissist thinks. So that's why I say, I don't think they really love themselves very much. They're constantly looking for affirmation and confirmation from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're going to what love is and the nature of love itself.
Okay. So go there, tell us.
Well, it really, again, it's going to come down to our relationship to a 4-letter word. And can two people definitely have a true, or definitely have a truly, completely coherent and exact, my definition of love is going to be different to yours. And what really ultimately matters for me in terms of my experience is my relationship to the word love. And if my relationship to the word love is A, B, and C, and I'm doing A, B, and C, then I do love myself. Your different perspective on love means that you witnessing me in love with myself is going to be something that you witness as pure narcissism, where I'm be like, no, I love me. So what really matters? Does it matter what we think of other people or what we think of ourselves? I would say both of them, especially when what we think of ourselves impacts other people.
I guess from my perspective, the people that I have seen to be narcissists, because they are constantly looking for the outside confirmation, to me, that's just demonstrating they aren't really feeling anything internally.
And that's your definition of that.
It's not just my definition, it's my perspective, it's my observation.
Perspective, but them inside the situation could be having a completely different experience.
Possibly. I can't rule that out.
I actually agree with you in terms of my definition of what, true love doesn't, a truly rich man lays down not his pockets with gold. I don't have to, if I have love, I don't have to go and validation. That for me is a clear sign that someone needs to send more love to themselves.
Right.
In that situation, in the observing of that, depending on the relationship, I'll either offer the opportunity for people to see a different way to do things, offer support to those that are actively seeking for a different way to do things. But ultimately, I will not allow their journey to impact mine by getting so caught up and invested in it and what it means and what they're doing that it starts to pull away from my joy. That's where I say, do me and allow other people to do them.
And I agree with you. Yeah, I think that's absolutely a very good way of describing it. I just said absolutely, and then I kind of hedged as soon as I remembered what your words were. That's your perspective.
Exactly.
It is my perspective. There's no doubt about that. But that's a great point, though, and you've given me some good meat to kind of chew on as I'm filling in gaps in what I'm putting together for my talk, because I want to really emphasize how important perspective is, and I'd kind of forgotten that when I was structuring the outline up to this point. So thank you. That's a really good insight. I mean, I love the other stuff you've been giving me too, both of you, but that one in particular, that's like, yeah, that's what I need to get in there. That's really big. That's huge. All right. Well, thank you. I mean, you guys have been giving me some good stuff here. I appreciate that. That's nice. Really good.
Glad.
Yeah. I mean, this is a really interesting exercise I'm going through because, I just thought in terms of, well, public speaking, that's pretty close to doing a podcast. I could do that. And I've been hearing people have, successful careers and all that. And I figured that might be a fun way to, add some income and meet more people, maybe find more listeners and so forth. I never thought about it in terms of, well, I really need to put together a damn hot topic and I need to make the speech really kill it. And so I better go do my research. I didn't think about it that way. And so now I'm actually diving in and doing it. It's like, oh my God, I got a lot of research to do here. I know this topic a lot less than I thought I did.
Yeah, it's totally different from being on a podcast and getting other people's opinions, because when you're a public speaker, it's just you.
It's just you. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, this is kind of an example of me going out of my, what they call the comfort zone, what I call the familiar zone, because I've said repeatedly, I like doing podcasts with somebody else. I like doing it with people like you, especially people who make me think, because it's so much more interesting. It's so much more fun. Mm-hmm. Whereas there have been times where I've done podcast episodes by myself. And, oh God, it's exhausting.
Is the hour over yet?
Yeah, right. Oh, that was only 10 minutes, really? I have given speeches before, and I do know that when you're speaking to an audience, it's not the same feeling at all, because you feel that audience, So it's not like you're talking to a camera or to a microphone. When you're talking to a camera and a microphone, you desperately wish that the microphone would say something, just to break up the monotony a little bit. But you don't have the same experience when you're talking to an audience. In fact, actually, it's something else I could ask you about, Daniel, because you periodically go around and do workshops and so forth. I imagine some of that includes some public speaking, does it not?
I do a lot of public speaking, and I'm doing 2 test X stages next year. It's a very, very, very different. I remember the first time that I spoke on stage as a keynote, like as a talk. Ooh. And it's like, that was really great, but you were teaching and not speaking.
Oh.
And they do differentiate.
There's a difference between the two. And normally when I'm doing workshops and stuff, I'm teaching. There's a difference between that and how you're constructing the content, how you're delivering, than when you're doing a talk or when you're doing a workshop.
Yeah, because a keynote is supposed to be a talk of inspiration. Depends. With some entertainment built in.
Sometimes it's a talk of information, but even the information, like this is the thing, that the one where I was told I was teaching and not speaking, I was actually giving actual content. I was actually asked to speak about choice. But it's the delivery is always, very different. I remember I was on my way to see some friends of mine were doing an event for real estate, a few hundred real estate agents in New York. And on the way there, I found out that the keynote speaker had pulled out, and they asked me if I could do the keynote that day.
Wow.
90 minutes later, I was on stage in front of hundreds of people doing a keynote on how disruption is going to affect the real estate industry.
Wow.
Well, at least you had a topic that you could draw on intimately that day, because your day was disrupted to do a keynote.
Facts.
So, and that formed, if my memory serves me correctly, that even formed that was part of the story that I used in order to speak that day. But yeah, when I'm teaching, it's like, right, let's get into it.
And I could see how teaching, that would be like right in your wheelhouse. That would be like a natural for you. You just do that easily.
And speaking now also, tell the story, show how the story connects to the audience and gives them the opportunity to go with you on a journey to learning. It's just a different way. And the whole thing of writing my TED Talks has been really, really, because we've only got a set amount of time.
Right. The TED Talks are like what, 10 minutes or something like that?
Up to 17, depending on the thing, but like
up to 17.
But you have to. The way that you get on the stage is by offering a big idea. I'm talking about human potential and the power of choice.
Right.
But then you have to take that big thing, distill it down to 17 minutes.
Right.
And frame it in a way that people are actually going to be interested.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a tall order.
So do you enjoy the speaking? I mean, we haven't really talked about that aspect of what you do with your life, and we've talked about your coaching, we've talked about your groups, your Facebook, and all that kind of stuff. But do you like the speaking part?
I do.
Yeah,
I really, really, really do. Especially now that I understand framework. Hey, Alyx. Now that I've got viable frameworks for how to structure and deliver, my coach Trish is amazing. She's really, really amazing. The way that we pulled apart all of my work, got distilled down to a couple of really core central ideas, and then it's easy from there to share stories that convey that idea to people and invite them to see if that fits with them too. It's really cool.
How do you know when you've hit out of the park? Is it based on what you feel inside? Is it based on what the audience reaction is? Is it based on what the organizer of the conference says, or is it some combination?
I suppose it would depend, ultimately, I always claim that I've hit it out of the park, regardless. And that aligns me to the reality where I have done, whatever that means. But I also only go into things like that, inviting that the highest and greatest good of all involved, even if that's one person that needed to hear something that day. And that gives me a very, very low balled minimum deliverable, so I can always be grateful and celebrate. But I like constructive criticism always. No, I don't want to be perfect. I know that it's unlikely that I'm going to be perfect. So I don't want people to just, blow smoke up my nose and tell me that it was perfect.
Thank you for the G-rated version of that.
Yeah, we're on TV now. We can't.
Tell me how I could improve. Like,
unlike certain co-hosts on Friday who just drop the F and S words all over the place, and I have to go through and do all kinds of filtering that out. So I really do appreciate that.
We're trying. A for effort.
A for effort, and not another word. But yeah, that's what it is for me on my end, anyway.
That's good. All right. So I imagine that's going to be a continued part of what you do going forward. That's something else I wanted to ask you about, kind of tying together all this stuff, because you're a coach. You've coached people to, usually most often the people who are coming to you are coming for financial stuff they're trying to go for. But you've also done your various workshops and your classes and so forth. You have your Facebook group, you have your public speaking. And I imagine you love doing all of it. Otherwise you wouldn't include each of those pieces. What's the part you love the best though? What's the part that makes you get up in the morning and say, oh God, I can't wait to do it again?
I love my group calls. I love my group coaching calls. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't really resonate as deeply with one-on-one coaching. That's why I charge 25 grand for it. So.
You gotta really want it.
you have to really, really want it. And also, it's like, yeah, it's going to be 25 grand. starting. That's for 3 months. So like keep
so they're not the only ones who are making a commitment. You're making a commitment too.
Yeah, I'm making a commitment.
It's both
well.
ways.
Yeah. But I also get to turn people down, which I do a lot. Great being abundant. I could just say no. But the group calls, I love the group calls. I do them at the moment with everything happening at home. I've only been doing once a week, but normally I do 3 a week. I would probably do them every day. I would make them available every day if it wasn't for the fact that Olga would kill me. Mm-hmm.
What is it about them that you love so much?
It's just the energy and the vibe on the group calls is just really, really palpable. People come and they cry. People come and they laugh. They come and they share. They come with their challenges. But they're really, really, to see the impact that it has on people's lives is amazing. It's amazing. It really is. Fortunately, we've actually had to sort of cap them now. That people used to be able to get them for like a couple $100 a month. You could come and get coached by me 12 times a month. But that's gone up now. You can only get it in one of my programs now. You used to be able to get it any level. Although you can get like 1 day a week for like a really reasonable rate and stuff. But yeah, it's just great. You know, people, but you see real change. And, you know, we get to hang out every few days.
I mean, how often are the people in your group calls people that you've worked with in other ways, either directly or indirectly?
Well, most of the people in my group calls are in my programs because most of my programs give you group call access. Right?
Okay.
Not most, actually. That's not quite the truth anymore. Now, only 2 of them give you automatic group call access.
The truth comes out. All right.
It used to be more. So they tended to be. And then what we used to do as well was whenever you did an event, you'd get like a couple of months of group call access. Now we're going to just be doing 30 days for certain of the events. Or if you get like a certain ticket for an event, you get that. My VIP days as well, people get like 30 days of group calls, but that's like a dozen, like it's 12 opportunities for you to come and get support like 3 times a week. So
that's fabulous. I'm glad you love it so much. I mean, and I could tell you picked the right one because when you said it, your face lit up as you were describing how much you enjoyed it. Yeah. So it was really clear. That was the one.
When I'm feeling down, I know that a group call is going to perk me back up.
Okay. Well, that's how I feel about a podcast. So I know that feeling. That's a really good feeling.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like, it's like a safe place.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. It's a very safe place. So, all right, good. I do want to take a moment to remind people, obviously this was kind of an ad hoc thing where I was asking questions that fed me, that worked with my project. But I want to remind people, you know, you can ask questions too. And that's what the LOA Today app is for. So use the app to go to the goodies section and use the ask a question form. Just label Alyx or Dan and the question will come in and we'll be able to bring it up the next time they're on the show. So take advantage of that because that's why we built that into the app so that your question can be a part of the conversation. And everybody who's ever done that and gotten their question onto the show and answered, invariably, well, I can't say they all write in, but most of them do. And they're just so effusive with appreciation for it. So it really does pay off is what I'm saying. So take advantage. That's why we have that built in. Plus, you got Daniel's ebook, you got the money game, you got the Beyond Intention audio program that he did. So, I mean, there's lots of reasons to do the LOA Today app. So download it today. And meanwhile, guys, this is great. Once again, I got to thank you both because you really helped me a lot with putting my talk together. So thank you very much. Thank you for all the insights. And Alyx, it's good to see that you're doing better. I know you were kind of struggling with stuff. So hopefully that's a continuation of the upward trend for you.
Yep. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And Daniel, as usual, your insights are absolutely fab. I can understand why people like being in your group, among other things, because man, you just dish out the best insights of all. So thank you very much. And thank you very much to all of our live streamers who are very quiet, but very attentive and raptly attentive. And thank you to our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.